Hello, welcome to another episode of Ramble Rousing, the only MTG show that cuts 55 lands per deck. I'm your host Ethan, bringing with me another topic in the world of Magic. And today, we are fulfilling a promise that I made a while back in one of my Kraken Yap videos on building a commander. So, the background is I opened a box of New Capenna in one of my old Kraken Yaps, and I said I would build a commander from one of the lands that I got. And I got a bunch of different lands in different color combos, and I put it up for a vote. And the winner was this Naya commander that we will get into, though I'm sure you could read what the commander does right now on the screen. But I just wanted to, I said I would build a deck live and in person. So here we are, live and in person, doing it live and kind of showing my thought process on how to build a deck. And so yeah, let's not delay, let's get into it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the resources that I use to begin. So I have EDH Rec here, obviously, with my commander. I have Moxfield as well, with a bunch of different people that have created my created decks using my commander before. So they are all here as well. I got Scryfall open, and I have Naya lands from ManaGathering.com that shows me all the lands that you can put, or all the lands that you can use in a Naya deck. And so we will be talking about this as well. So let's just jump into it. And again, I'll go over all these resources and how I use them as we build. But let's just jump into it. So today we're building, as again I'm sure you saw earlier, we're building Sigurd, Jarl of Ravensthorpe. Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Boast 1. You can put a lore counter on target Saga you control or remove one from it, and then Boast only works once per turn and only if you attack with this creature per turn. And then whenever you put a lore counter on a Saga you control, put a +1/+1 counter on up to one other target creature. So obviously we have Sagas Matters deck, as well as a +1/+1 counter synergy. So we're gonna want to feed into those. So yeah, let's just jump into it. So the first thing I like to do, that I always do with all my decks, is I just dump a bunch of placeholder lands to begin with. So I will add 38 lands. I generally like to run anywhere between 36 to 38. Normally I like to run 38 unless my curve allows me to play lower. But putting 38 lands at the very beginning allows me to just kind of gate myself, or put like the bumpers on the amount of cards I need to add to get to 100, not including all the lands that I'll add at the very end. So first thing I like to do, get those lands in there, put the bumpers on, so that way I force myself to look at only a certain amount of cards and not sacrifice any lands for that. The next thing I like to do is, with any deck, I always think about win cons first. So how is this deck going to win? Obviously, if you think about win cons, that kind of leads into the thought of like what bracket your deck will sit in, what are some of the cards that you want to add, game changers, no game changers, etc. And so this deck, I'm thinking it's going to be around probably a turn 8 to 9 win with no game changers, which would sit at around bracket 2. I think I want it to be around 2 or 3, be able to compete with the 3s somewhat, but not, I'm not going to add any game changers to it. I think generally most bracket 3 decks will probably be better than what I'm going to build here, but I want it to land around brackets 2 or 3. Definitely can bring it to a bracket 2 table, and then if you so choose to bring it to bracket 3 tables, you totally can, and still feel somewhat comfy about it. So with that in mind, let's talk win cons that are not game changers. This is where a lot of my limits on knowledge of Magic cards extends. There are so many Magic cards that have been printed over the years. It's really hard to know. I mean, I don't know if anyone really knows every single Magic card that's in existence. And so to open up with one of my resources, that's what I like to use Moxfield for. So what I like to do a lot of the times is I'll go to like the most viewed decks for my commander, and I'll just pop some of these open. And I'll make sure I give shout outs to the creators of these decks. So thank you to all of these creators who've built these decks before. And what I like to do generally is I like to go in and look at some of the creatures that people like to play. And specifically, we're looking for win cons. So mostly they're going to be payoffs, right? Something that either can stack really well with sagas or stack really well with counters. And a lot of the times I usually like to kind of just go through these very quickly and get an idea, like at a kind of a glance, a top glance, to see what cards people like. So, for example, Arwen, Weaver of Hope. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters equal to Arwen's toughness. This is a pretty good win con, considering Sigurd can just dump counters onto Arwen, and then every other creature that you play after that will get counters from Arwen. So I generally like to be very generous to begin with. So we're going to be just tossing cards in here pretty aggressively, so that way we can capture as much as we can. So looking at a lot of these decks here, there's quite a lot of good stuff actually. And I always like taking inspiration from other people, just because people are very smart, much smarter than me. Shalayan Halar is a great card. I've had someone play this card against me as their commander. It's quite good. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on the creature you control, Shalayan Halar deals that much damage. So that's for sure a win con. So let's add that. Other +1/+1 win cons. Sovereign Akanu. I have a friend who loves to play that deck, and that deck is really, really strong. So for sure want to add the Sovereign, if I can spell Sovereign correctly. Sovereign Volcanic Akanu. There he is. Every time the Sovereign attacks, for each creature you control with power greater than its base power, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the difference. Very, very strong card. Actually pretty good in the command zone, if you are into that. Let's see, other win cons I can think of. Off the top of my head, I think Ouroboros would be a fun win con. Very, very strong card. And that actually is a great segue into another way that I like to choose cards. I always like to choose cards that I already own. I mean, I've opened a lot of sealed packs before, so I own an Ouroboros. I know it's $36 card, but luckily since I own it, I don't really have to, pay the extra money to get a single. So I will always prioritize cards that I own, regardless of whether or not they are considered like the quote-unquote best card. But yeah, I own an Ouroboros. I think it's going to be a great win con. You can place counters on it from Sigurd, and then obviously when you begin combat, it dumps its own counters onto other people. So Ouroboros is really good. Champion of Lambholt is another one I was thinking of. This is one that creatures with less power than the champion can't block it, so it essentially can really easily become an unblockable creature, especially if you're dumping counters on it from Sigurd. So I think the Champion of Lambholt is a great example of a good win con. Yeah, so that's 5 win cons. It's pretty good. Let's see. And again, the reason I like to use other people's win cons mostly, or like take stuff from other people here, is because it's really, really hard to think of win cons, because I feel like EDH Rec doesn't often care about win cons. EDH Rec mostly cares about cards with high synergy, but that high synergy cards doesn't necessarily give you, a way to win the game. And so the idea of a win con is like, I play this card, within the next 1 or 2 turns, we're going to try to attempt to win the game. And so I think for bracket 2, having 5 win cons, I feel is pretty good. I think I'm happy with this for now. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this for now. So after kind of deciding how my win cons are, these are all cards that we're gonna want to put 1/1 counters on using Sigurd. Let's start dumping just other cards into it. So what I like to do to begin is I go to EDH Rec, I look at the high synergy cards, and I almost always dump every single high synergy card into the deck. And the reason I do this is because I really like I said, I really like to add cards very aggressively and then cut pretty aggressively, just so that way I don't miss anything that I otherwise might. And so we're just gonna dump a bunch of cards in here. We're not really gonna care too much about the card type. So let's see what I got. I got Aesir, I got Garnet. I opened a lot of Final Fantasy when FF came out, so that's cool to see Garnet here. Satsuki. If I could type better, that'd be nice. I thought I saw Sithis. Arnie slays the troll. And yeah, so we're just going to be adding all of these cards here. Okay. So now that we have all those cards added, what I like to do at this point in time, now that I have a good amount of cards in the deck, is I like to start tagging stuff. So in Mox Field, we can add tags for each deck to kind of explain what that card is going to do within the deck. And the reason I like to do this is because I like to get an idea of how... I like to get an idea of what cards are going to serve what purpose in the deck, so that way I can start planning out what stuff I need to cut. So if I go here and I group this by type and tag, we got 5 win cons. Let's see what Ivor. Ivor is going to give us a Saga and or land from among them to the battlefield. So, and it has to deal combat damage. So we'll call this card advantage, since that's really what it is at a base level. And I like to be pretty general, obviously, with these, the tags, which is why I don't really always use global tags. Each deck has a specific tag for me. So this is going to be counter, lore counter, manipulation, Jukai Naturalist is going to be a cost reduction. Satsuki is lore counter manipulation again. This is going to be card advantage. Summon Fenrir is going to be a Saga, so we'll have a tag for Sagas, since that's going to be important. And I'll also call this Ramp. And yeah, I'll just call it Saga and Ramp for now. And then Sithis is going to be card advantage for sure. So if you notice a lot of these, like the tags that I do here, obviously Summon Fenrir does quite a bit of stuff, right? You play it, it ramps, and then at turn 3 you get to draw a card. So it's not just ramp, it also counts as card advantage. But why did I not tag it as card advantage? Well, mostly because I want to be a little, not necessarily careful, but more specific about when I play Fenrir, what is the immediate advantage that I'm going to get, and what am I trying to use it for? Well, I'm trying to use Fenrir because it'll immediately ramp me, and then it gets to sit on my board as a Saga. So, assuming I'm manipulating Fenrir, I might not even get to that Saga number 3, because I might just want to always bounce it between 1 and 2 so I can continue to trigger Sigurd, right? And so I don't necessarily want to call this a card advantage when it might not play out all the time as card advantage. Will it sometimes get to its 3rd point and then be sacrificed? Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely a lot of times where I'll have to do that, and it's advantageous for me to do that. But I think it's a false... You have to be very careful, in my opinion, of like falsely thinking that this is going to be a card draw card, when most cases it's probably just going to be bouncing between 1 and 2. So yeah, and I think this is going to be really important for the Sagas, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because the Sagas specifically have a bunch of different stuff on them. For example, Arnie is interaction that then ramps me, that then gains me life, right? It does a lot of different stuff. But I think what it is mostly going to be doing is it's mostly going to be an interaction piece. That is also a Saga. So I'll save that. Aesir Skips Valhalla is going to be life gain and recursion if I can get it to 3. So I will call this... I'll definitely obviously give it the Saga tag. And I will call this recursion as well. Recursion. So another thing I wanted to call out here is, obviously I didn't put life gain as a part of any of the tags, even though 2 of these Sagas do give me life gain. And the reason for that is because this deck doesn't really care about life gain. There's obviously an upside. I mean, both of these give me life. Sigurd even gives me life. But it's not going to be the main focus of this deck, and so I don't really want to be tracking that. So yeah, first row in games, got counters. If you control creature forward, draw 2 cards. So mostly going to be bouncing between token creation and putting counters. So I think I want to add a counters tag. So I'll call it like +1 counters. And let's actually add some of these cards to +1 counters. And this is also a Saga. And the reason I want to add a +1 counters tag is because Sigurd obviously puts counters on other creatures. We also probably want to be dishing some creatures, or dishing some counters onto Sigurd as well. So that's why we want to keep these. So I already have quite a few different little categories here. So let's keep adding cards and then seeing if we need to grow those categories. So after doing the high synergy, I obviously like to look at the top cards. So Elspeth Conquers Death. And I normally just go down them and I just add again. Can't stress this enough, but I like to be very, very aggressive with how I add here. And the reason I like to be aggressive with how I add is because I can always cut stuff later, and it's much easier to cut stuff when I'm able to see the entire every possible list of cards that I have. So let's do the adding. Yeah, so this will take a while, so I'll skip ahead here, but I will fast forward and come back after I have added all of these cards. All right, so all of those cards in the kind of the top cards here have all been added. I'm gonna skip the game changers and go straight to the creatures. But before I do, I will once again just start tagging some of this stuff. So yeah, I will once again fast forward through my tagging and then talk about the next steps. Really quickly, cutting in here to say that I added another custom tag here. Decided to add a little column called protection. So got a card in there that had some pretty good protection, so just decided to add. And here's another one, actually, funny enough. So yep, there's another little tag for you. And again, when I make tags, I generally like to make ones for groups that I think are important, and that'll come up multiple times. So there we go, only got a few more to go, so I will speed it up real quickly and then come back in a few seconds. Alright, so we are back. I have now tagged everything that I added earlier, and we are gonna keep aggressively adding stuff. I'm actually going to, interestingly enough, go back to sorting this by type. And the reason I'm going to go back real quickly to sorting this by type is because if you look here, you can see that the way that EDH Rec is fixed up, it obviously does the, all the creatures first, and then it does, I think, like, instants and sorceries. It's very, very easy to kind of like overload. If you're just looking at EDH Rec, it's very, very easy to overload your deck with creatures, mostly because they put the creatures, that's the first group that you see is the creatures group. So generally, I've noticed that when I build decks, I end up kind of like aggressively putting creatures in the deck. And that's mostly just because, like I said, the creatures come first. So it's very easy to just add a bunch of creatures very quickly. And so I say that just to call it out. And probably going to... I end up cutting a lot of creatures very quickly for that reason. So yeah, with that, I will go back to speeding up the boring part of me adding cards, and I will come back when I have added a good amount of cards here. Okay, so here we are now. I added a bunch of creatures here, got like 34 of them. Obviously, as you can see, there are quite a few creature cards that are still here. I mostly added a bunch of these top ones, but once you kind of get down to the bottom ones here, that's when you have to start kind of like thinking about, which ones do you want to include, which ones do you not want to include. And I think, honestly, at this point in time, I'm pretty happy with just calling it at 34 and starting to do some cuts here. So how do I want to cut? Well, first thing I normally do is I go take a look at some other people's cards, or people's decks, I should say. See how many creatures that people are normally running. We can see here we have 28 creatures. This guy's running 30, 17 here. So a pretty interesting spread. Two people running a pretty high amount of creatures, and then one person running a fairly low amount of creatures. So I think what I want to do is I probably want to end up somewhere around that maybe 17-ish mark, maybe somewhere around 20 creatures. So I currently have 34, so I have to do some pretty aggressive cuts here. So let's see what are some of the things that I might want more of. Looking at it now, I think card advantage is always good. You could never run too little card advantage. Cost reduction is also quite nice here, considering a lot of these sagas, Knights of the Round, Magic Sisters, Bahamut are pretty expensive. Okay, so let's take a look at what I don't think I need here. So this just gives me Sagas have read ahead. Whew. This is pretty good for a 2-drop, actually. So I'll keep that for now. Birgi allows me to boast twice, which is quite nice, and I own a Birgi, so that's always good. Calyx is a pretty expensive card. Put a +1/+1 counter whenever Calyx or another enchantment enters. Whenever Calyx deals combat damage, you may create a token that's a copy of a non-legendary, so we can make copies of our Sagas. That's quite good. Eidolon gives me card draw, which is quite good, but it is a 4 cost. So I think I would move this one to considering. Ivor is mill that many cards, place a Saga or land. Another card advantage card, but it's also 5 cost. That's pretty expensive, so I will also move that to considering. Evolution gives us Recursion, which is pretty good in a Sagas deck. I'll keep that. I think Garnet is almost certainly a must keep, allowing me to remove counters. Havi is Recursion and has Indestructible, but it costs 6. That's quite expensive. So I'll also move you to considering. Enchantment. So this is cost reduction and life gain, but it does not give me card draw. And I already have quite a bit of life gain considering my commander comes built in with it. So I'll cut that as well. Replicate. Replicate could be interesting. I don't know how high cost my cards are gonna. I don't know how high cost my my Sagas will be, so I'll hold that one just in case. Jukai Naturalist we talked about. I also think I own a Jukai Naturalist, which makes me want to add it more. I do like the cost reduction on Jukai Naturalist. I just don't know how. We'll see. Whenever this creature attacks, put a lore counter. That's quite good. Draw gets card advantage. Ouroboros. Rydia. Whenever a land you control enters, discard a card, draw a card. So card advantage. And then I can return a Saga card with mana value X or less to the battlefield with a finality counter. And it gains haste. So Saga Recursion. Okay, I'll keep that in for now. Sanctum Weaver is a mana dork. I'm actually going to cut Sanctum Weaver. And the reason for that is because I don't own a Sanctum Weaver. But I will replace it with a Bloom Tender, which I do own. So I'm happy to make that cut. Sanctum Weaver is technically better if I have more Sagas out, but I don't own one, so I'm happy to make that exchange. Satyr Enchanter is card advantage. This is card manipulation, which I counter manipulation, which I think I want to keep. More card advantage. I think I want to keep card advantage mostly. Enchantment spells cost 1 less. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. It's quite good. Low cost as well, so I'll keep it for now. A bunch of summons. Wild Seer. Enchantment have Cascade. Ooh, enchantment spells have Cascade. That feels good. You can like multiple Cascade into enchantments, but it is a 5 cost. I'll put it into considering. I think this one just creates... Yeah, this one creates copies of enchantments. But if it's an aura, you get to untap Scry too. But I don't have auras in this deck, so I will also move you to considering. So who are we at now? 28. That is still quite high, but I think I'm going to keep these 28 for now. Especially since a lot of these here are Sagas as well, so they kind of double up. So, like Bahamut, Fenrir, Ixion, Knights of the Round, Major Sisters, Yojimbo, those I would count as Sagas over creatures. So we want to be stacking those. Okay. Pretty good here. So let's go ahead and add some tags. And again, I'll speed this process up. But before I speed it up, one tag that I usually add, and I like to add in my decks, is something called... oh, I forgot what I call it, but it's called like I normally call it efficiency boost. Efficiency boost are cards that generally allow you to do the thing you want to do better. So, for example, read ahead allows you to instantly put a bunch of counters on your Sagas. So let's say you read ahead by 3, well, you get 3 triggers of Sigurd, right? And so I normally have some section of my deck called Efficiency Boost. That's what it is for. It's normally just like cards that make my game plan go slightly faster. Birgi would also be a part of that, considering she gives me Boast twice. She also could give Ramp, but I don't really care too much about the Ramp per se. I mostly care about the creatures being able to Boast twice. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. Once again, I will speed up this process of me tagging everything, and I will get back to you once I'm done. Alright, so we are back, and I tagged everything, I believe. I think I did everything correctly. So, here we are. We are 78 cards in, which is pretty good. That leaves a lot of room to add other stuff. 13 Sagas, I definitely could get more Sagas here. Yeah, I think we're looking actually quite good here, surprisingly. Alright, so next up, I usually just kind of go down the list of EDH rec cards. So, instance, let's see. For instance, we want to add... Mostly I care about interaction here. So right now I have a Swords to Plowshare. Let's add Generous Gift. And normally for interaction here, I like to hit the staples. So we'll take Generous Gift. We will take Path, maybe. Path to Exile. I could take Beast Within. I think I won't for now. Story Weave seems pretty good. We want some more manipulation. Heroic Intervention is always good, but I don't own a Heroic Intervention. Inspiring Call is also pretty good in this deck, considering we care about +1/+1s. Deflecting Swat could be pretty good since I own one. Okay, so let's do... One of the hard parts about building decks and stuff that even I run into at this point in time is just like choosing what commander staples I really want to keep in here. Tamiyo Safekeeping. I have a Restoration Magic as well, so I'll add Restoration Magic as another protection spell, because I think all of these spells are pretty good, right? Like Path to Exile, Beast Within. Beast Within's always good, but I didn't add it into this deck. You know, Stroke of Midnight, another easy removal spell. Flicker of Fate can be quite good in this deck. It's just a matter of kind of like what you want to do. I think my main concern right now is for sure protection, considering I only have 5 win cons. The chance of you drawing one of your win cons per game is pretty low. And then once you get it on the battlefield, you want to be protecting it as much as you can. So I think I'm pretty happy with these instants for now. There could be things that I'm just not thinking of at the moment. But as of right now, I think I'm pretty happy with what I got. So let's tag these very quickly. And like I said, most instants here are going to be either under protection or interaction, which I think is great because everyone needs to be running more protection and everyone needs to be running more interaction. So I think I am happy with this. Cool. We are at 48, so we're definitely getting there, and we're missing quite a few enchantments still, which I think is fine. We can always go back and take a look at those. There is actually... okay, yeah. So we'll go here to sorceries. Same thing. I will just pick out a bunch of sorceries that I like. I think Farseek and Cultivate for sure. Nature's, maybe not Cultivate, maybe I do Farseek Nature's Lore as my ramp cards. Clash of the Icons is quite good because it can help with my Sagas as well. So yeah, I will add a few of these, and then I will come back and talk about my thoughts. Alright, so I dumped a bunch of sorceries in here. Once again, very, very quickly we'll tag them as we go along. But again, for the most part, a lot of these sorceries are going to be some sort of interaction, or ramp, or ways to, if you're able to find sorceries that kind of help you with your game plan. So for example, Clash of the Icons, or even Search for Glory. Both of those are sorceries that kind of do double duty, right? Specifically, Clash of the Icons can like remove a counter, put a counter on, or fight a creature. So it does like interaction, plus it cares about lore counter manipulation. It's very good, so I'm very happy. When I'm able to find sorceries like that, those are always fun to add as well to the deck. So going over to artifacts, I think the only artifact I care about here is Power Conduit. And obviously putting Soul Ring in here. So let's do Power Conduit, and let's add a Soul Ring as well, because every deck needs a Soul Ring. It's a commander staple for fun. So Soul Ring will obviously be ramp. Power Conduit will be manipulation. So I'll call it +1/+1 counters and lore counter manipulation. Nice. Cool. Okay. Enchantments. Enchantments are gonna be the big one here. So if you can see in my little corner there, I have 9, I guess now 8 since I just added one, cards to play around with, which is pretty small considering I only have 13 Sagas. So this is going to be probably another area where I am just going to be kind of aggressively adding Sagas to this deck, and then I'll have to take a look at what I end up with in terms of how many cards I have left. So let's aggressively add some Sagas, and then I will come back and talk about what I'm ending up with. All right, here we are. So adding the last few enchantments here. I do want to take this time to actually call out Scryfall, since Scryfall is actually also a very, very strong tool here to look for very specific types of cards. So let's say, for example, I want to look up cards of type Saga that the color is either Naya or less than Naya. So Naya or the combination of colors that make up Naya. And this is actually a really, really good way of looking at very specific cards. So if I know I'm making a Sagas deck, then I like to use Scryfall to very specifically look up Sagas of my color. And this allows me to grab very specific cards that might not have been pulled from EDH Rec. So for example, Fall of the Imposter. I don't think I added Fall of the Imposter into this deck. I could definitely try. Okay, Fall of the Imposter is already here. Awesome. So I usually like to go down this list. I usually try to do it pretty quickly. I just kind of take a glance at everything to see which ones I like, and here is a lot of like kind of the decision making, right? I know Sagas are important in this deck, So now I have to make the decision of like what sagas I like and which ones I want to keep versus which ones I think are not going to be as useful here. So I think for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the sagas that I have added. And again, I'll always take a relook at all my cards at the end. But is there anything that I think is really stands out to me? I don't think so. Urza Saga I definitely missed, but I'll get to that when I do lands. So that's a good one to kind of keep in the back of my mind. Okay, cool. So here we are. 30 enchantments. Quite a lot of enchantments. I obviously am over by 11 here. If I take a look at some of these other decks again, we got 25, 24 enchantments. This guy runs 31, so probably an even ground of around 27 or so, maybe, is probably the average between those two. So we're definitely going to want to cut a few enchantments. I think we're also going to want to cut some creatures fairly aggressively as well, is what I'm thinking. So let's retake a look at some of my creatures here. Well, actually, first thing I would do here is let's go to the types and tags and let's start to tag all of these before I do anything else. So yeah, once again, I'll speed up this process and let's get to tagging. All right, I think I tagged everything properly. So now I'm up with 32 sagas, quite good. A lot of interaction, which is also I kind of like. Good amount of card advantage, some cost reduction here, lower counter manipulation. Okay. Alright, so now that everything is tagged, what I think I want to be looking at for cuts here, and again, I have to make 11 cuts, which is very aggressive, is my mana curve, which is still looking pretty good here. Maybe cut some 3 drops, it looks like. But I want to be looking here at mana curve, as well as what are some of the stuff that I might have quote unquote too much of. So I think I have quite too many sagas here, so I definitely want to be taking a look at my sagas. I also always want to take a look at efficiency boost first, because efficiency boost, while good, is not going to necessarily help me win the game. It just helps me possibly win faster. And then I have 21 interaction pieces. You should always run more interaction, but I think I'm happy to lose out on a few interaction pieces here if needed. I think everything else I'm pretty good about. One of the things that I like to emphasize, especially when, doing this, is I really like to emphasize which of these categories is really going to help me win the game. I think like protection and adding counters and lore counter manipulation are the 3 most important. I think card advantage is always important as well. So I'm not necessarily willing to, I don't want to sacrifice counters. I don't want to sacrifice card advantage, lore counter manipulation, or protection. I think those are the most important things. Obviously sagas are important, but I just have a lot of them here. So I'm not really looking to cut most of these, but rather the stuff that I deem is like less important. So I think cost reduction we can cut, especially since I have quite a few ramp cards here. Recursion I'm always willing to cut out of, because while it's good, it's not necessary. And then, like I said, efficiency boost is always a great place to start the cutting. So let's take a look at efficiency boost here. I think Barbara Wright is one I'm... Read ahead can be very, very good, which is why I'm kind of being a little careful here. I think this replicate I'm willing to part with here. But Barbara Wright I might keep. And I think I'm okay with that. These cost reductions I'm also kind of willing to pass on. And the only reason I say that is because with only 2 of them in the deck, the possibility of you drawing one of them is just very, very low. And I would much rather stock up on ramp over cost reduction. So I think I'm willing to part with both of these. But I think before I do these cuts, maybe I take a look at my sagas here. So most of the things I want to cut from the sagas, I have quite a few of them, are ones that are tagged with a few things. So like this is tagged as interaction and saga. So for the interaction, it obviously exiles a creature. It gives one of my creatures +2/+2. I could just continually bounce the exile, but then those cards get returned to the owner's battlefield at the very end. I think I'm willing to cut this. I'll move it to considering for now. I think for the tags that it has, I probably don't want it. Let's see, a ramp card for 5 mana. It does make Smog though, which I think is pretty fucking cool. So I'll keep it. Let's see. I got a lot of 3-cost cards, so maybe I want to take a look at my 3-cost enchantments here. Is there any 3-cost enchantment that I'm willing to part with? I think the answer is probably not. And again, cutting costs is always the hardest thing. Fable the Mirror Breaker. Kiki-Jiki, I think, is one I'm willing to part with. Let's see. Let me change the text. Card advantage, Saga. You make the Shaman. You could continually bounce the Shaman. It counts as ramp, but I think I'm okay cutting Kiki-Jiki. Yeah, let's move Kiki-Jiki to considering here. It's a 3-cost as well, so it does cut down on that, which is quite good. Ooh, a lot of draw 2s. I kind of like those though. 8. Trial of a Time Lord might be a cut as well. Let's see what it's tagged as. I think most of this is just going to be like an interaction saga. Yeah, it's like a good saga that you can manipulate very easily since it has a long time until you get to the very end. But again, I have a lot of interactions. I'm happy to cut this card. What else do we have that I'm willing to cut? Let's take a look at Curve. I got a 9-cost, which is Bahamut. 8-cost, which I think is Knights of the Round. I'm happy about. Don't have a lot of 1-cost. That's very interesting. 5 spells, but only 16 permanents with mana value 2. I know Jukai and Starfield are 2 of those. I think I am going to cut both of these. I don't care too much about the benefits of cost reduction, especially since I have a pretty good amount of ramp here, which I'm happy with. Though I guess I probably shouldn't be considering there and back ramp. I don't know how much you're ramping at 5 mana, let's be real. Okay, what else can we cut here? I think a Johnny Fells the Godsire I'm willing to cut as well. I just don't think it's a 5-cost that doesn't do a lot. The Cat Warrior token is kind of The fact that it interacts is the main thing that I want it with, and then Double Strike is pretty good, but I don't think it does anything for me. So let's cut that somewhat aggressively. I'm kind of looking at Calyx here. I wouldn't mind cutting Calyx. It's an expensive card. Though, if I'm able to threaten people with Calyx and create a bunch more sagas, it's very, very good. I think it's a great top-end card, but pretty weak card unless you're able to get it going. Let's see. I don't own a Path to Exile, I don't think, and I'm kind of willing to cut it because I have a lot of interaction here. Orchard of the Hidden Ones is also 4 cost. I don't really care about it's basically 4 cost to deal 4 damage because I really don't care about the assassin tokens. At most, you make what, 4 assassins, or you'll have 4 assassins with menace, but they're all 1/1s. Oh, I didn't mean to add that tag. Whoopsies. So if I don't have card advantage, just an interaction saga. I think I'm okay with cutting this. There's also did I cut the Akroan War? The Akroan War. I think this one is also a pretty good cut. You gain control of a creature. Until your next turn, creatures your opponent control attack each combat, but it's not goaded, so they can attack you. And then everything deals damage to itself, so it essentially acts as a board wipe. I think I'm okay cutting this. I don't necessarily... The fact that you can use it to attack... Like, it doesn't stop people from attacking you, I think is kind of weak. So that leaves me with 26 sagas, so I probably don't want to cut any more sagas. I probably just want to cut creatures now. So I have 25 creatures. Let's take a look at which ones I don't want. I think Barber Wright is a pretty good cut here. And I think some of my card advantage cards might be okay to cut. So I think I'm happy cutting Barber Wright. Considering all she does is help me. I think all she does was efficiency boost. And then I think Evolution Witness is not a bad cut here. Yes, you can get a saga back, but how much do you really care about recursion? And sagas aren't really going to be aggressively being sent to your graveyard. I think Rydia is just better because it just goes onto the battlefield. Like, yes, you have to pay the cost, but and Rydia gives you card advantage, whereas Evolution Witness doesn't. So, like, you can discard a saga and then return it using Rydia. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this, and that gives me 100. Okay, I think this is pretty okay for now. I think I am happy here with all of those cuts. Cool. So next up, kind of like the last thing that I would do here, is going to be obviously adding the lands. So let us add some lands. So like I said, I like to use this Naya lands page, and really all I do is I just dump lands into here. So I'll move this here. Jungle Shrine, Cabaretti. I generally try to stay away from... Obviously stay away from the tap lands. But a lot of it is going to be based off of... what cards do I own already? Because lands are extremely expensive. Probably the most expensive part of any deck. So I'll add a Jetmir's Garden, since that's what I started with. I also want to add an Urza Saga, since I actually do own an Urza Saga, funny enough. So those can get in there, and Urza Saga obviously counts as a land. All these are tap lands, again, trying to stay away mostly from tap lands. I do have a Lush Portico. I might not have a Lush Portico anymore. I think I might have put it in a different deck. I'll have to take a look at which of the surveil lands, if I have any of them, but for now I'll keep them out just in case I don't have them. Temple lands I like to add. I actually really like the temple lands. I think they're a lot of people feel kind of so-so about them for good reason. But I like the fact that they're cheap. And they allow you to get card selection. So like if you pull them turn 1, especially in Commander where not a lot of people have turn 1 plays, they can feel pretty nice actually to play, surprisingly. And I think that's just because like you set up your next draw, you get it down turn 1, and then you're able to set up your next draw. It's quite nice. Verge lands are also very, very good, but I think I actually, funny enough, only own a Sunbillow Verge. So throw that in there. All the shock lands I will add just because I own every single shock land of Naya colors. So that's Temple Garden, not Temple of. So Temple Garden, Sacred Foundry, and the last one, which I definitely know, is Stomping Grounds. I know my shock lands, surely. And at this point in time, once you add a few lands, I just start cutting my placeholder lands until I get to 100. So we'll just, there we go, back to 100. Keep looking here. The fast lands I don't particularly like to add. I'm happy to add the slow lands, and I'm also happy to add these the pain lands. So let's go with a Rockfall Vale, Overgrown Farmland, and I think the other one is Sundown Pass, which I do actually, funny enough, believe. I believe I own a Sundown Pass. The pain lands, I know I have a brush land, I think. Forest, Battlefield Forge. There we go. Cool. Okay. Reveal lands. Reveal lands I'm very careful about because I generally don't run a lot of basics, and I don't have the surveil lands, so I would just have like basic lands, the temples, my triome. So I'm very careful about the reveal lands. I own a lot of them, and more or less I'm willing to play them, but like the reveals and the tangos, the one that care about basic land types, I generally try to stay away from, more or less. Check lands as well. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. When they work, it feels great. When they don't work, it feels really bad. So I usually like to add these as a last resort. The MDFC lands are great. I love the MDFC lands. I love them so much. I will play as many MDFC lands as I can because they feel really, really good to play, in my opinion. So let's get all of them in here. Let's cut some more. Oh, I removed an overgrown farmland on accident. Actually, what I could do here, one of the cool things you can do about here is I can actually look at my history. So I can put this back. Okay, cool. All right, and then we'll just keep cutting a few planes. Get my number down to 100, and then I'll keep taking a look at some of those lands. Alright, cool. So back down to 100, keep looking. All these MDFCs I really, really like. The only issue is they enter tapped on the other side. I generally don't like it when they enter tapped on the other side. Fetch lands, I own an Arid Mesa, so I will actually add an Arid Mesa. But I don't own any of the other fetch lands, so I'll keep those away. Artifact lands I don't care about. All these enter tapped, so I don't care about. Future shifted lands. It's pretty cool. I do actually, funny enough, own this, the Grave of the Burn Willows. The one from, it's the one from, Edge of Eternities. I wouldn't play it, probably, but it's fun that I own it. Filter lands. I like filter lands, except for the fact that they're just, in Naya, they're expensive, because I think these two just haven't been reprinted yet. It's funny, the Edge of Eternities one is cheap. But I probably won't play them just because they are expensive. The Odyssey filter lands are quite nice. We have the Battle Bond lands. I own a spectator seating, so I'll add a spectator seating. I have a lot of random Boros cards that might tell you what colors I don't like to play. So I'll add a spectator seating just because I own one. Let's see, what else do we got here? We're near the end. I obviously am not going to add any of these true duels unless. How do I feel about filter lands? Generally, I feel pretty okay about them. At the end of the day, they're untapped lands that, for the most part, unless you're playing them on turn 1, you'll get your value back from them. So I am happy to add those as well. Okay, is there anything I missed? I missed the command tower. So I will add a command tower. I will also add an exotic orchard, because I always like playing exotic orchards. With 4 players, it's almost certainly like a free, at minimum with 4 players, it's almost certainly a free dual land. Let's see, do I feel like I missed anything else? I'm sure I did somewhere, and I'm just not thinking about it. But I think I'm pretty happy. Oh, I did miss one, actually. I'm thinking about it now. Balaged Recovery. If you are playing green, if you don't take anything out of this video, the one thing you should listen to, and I'm saying this very far into the video, so I'm sure everyone is still enraptured by my content. Play Balaged Recovery. Every single time you play a green deck, you should be playing this card. This card is insane. It's free recursion or a free green land. It's so good. If you are playing a green deck, play Balaged Recovery. I will get off my soapbox now. Okay. I think that's it. That's everything. At this point in time, what we want to do now is probably just go ahead and add some of these, get rid of these planes and add some basics. So what I like to do is down here in Moxfield, they do a pretty good job of putting like how much mana you can make, or how much mana each card you own cost, as well as kind of like how much mana you can produce. So you can see here, I don't have a lot of red cards, but I have a lot of red mana, and I have a lot of green mana, but not, or a lot of green cost cards, but not a lot of green mana. So overall, I want to be adding more green mana. So let's cut a few planes. I am happy to at least put 1 mountain and 1 forest in this deck. So I'll bump up some of these numbers here. Let's go back down here and take a look. That's pretty good spread. I think I would like to have more Selesnya lands, but I just don't own a lot in general in terms of Selesnya lands. I think I'm willing to cut a mountain for a forest here, especially since I have a lot of ways to fetch Selesnya. But I think what we have here is pretty good. Pretty good spread between my lands. I think I really captured all the lands I wanted to. Urza Saga is almost always can only pull Soul Ring, which I think is fine at the end of the day. You're trading basically your 1 land for a 2 land. I think that's fine. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy here with what I got. So yeah, there you go. I won't do this on camera since it'll be boring, but I usually add a land tag to my lands, and none of these do very much. Actually, I'm thinking about it now. There is one card I do want to add that I totally forgot about, and that's there are a few cards, and one of the things I did forget to do, so it's a very good thing I caught this, is if you actually go to here, they actually have utility lands, and I do want to talk about these utility lands because I think they're all really, really good. So Nesting Grounds, Hall of Heliod, so let's add a few more lands. Good thing I caught myself here. And the reason I caught myself was because I was thinking about Hall of Heliod's Generosity, which is a very good card for this deck. Rogue's Passage, am I willing to give up a Rogue's Passage here? I don't know if I am. Rogue's Passage is just so good. Karn's Bastion with the Proliferate is really good as well. So I think I'll want to put a Karn's Bastion. Ishgard. I own Ishgard, and I'm happy to put an Ishgard in here. And I think I have Urza Saga. I think I'm good without the rest of this. Okay, cool. So, gotta cut some more lands. Let's remove a plains. Let's remove a forest. Remove a plains. Remove a forest. How we looking on our mana? Oof, kind of rough, I won't lie. So really what I should do is just cut this mountain. And I am going to be short really some white and green, which makes sense. I mean, I have a lot of, like, I have some Billow Burge, I have Sacred Foundry, I can create a lot of red mana for kind of no reason. And again, a lot of it is because I own a lot of these cards, right? Like, I own a Spectator Seeding, I own a Sacred Foundry, I own a Sun Billow Verge, which is generally why I like to put some of these cards in here. I think if I were to cut some stuff, I think I might own a Sundown Pass as well. I'm happy to cut Sunscorched Divide, I think. As well as probably Temple of Triumph. I love Temple lands, but I think I'm happy to do it. And Battlefield Forge, which is a pain land and not the colors that I want. So that gives me 3 extra slots. Let's see if I can find some cheap Selesnya lands. Hushwood Verge. I don't know if I own one, but if I do own one, that'd be great. Lush Portico I know I own, but I think it's in a deck, unfortunately, so I'm not going to worry too much about Lush Portico. I could play a sack land, like a fetch land, which might not be the worst idea. Let's see. I could play Sunpetal Grove. It's a check land, but I have an okay amount of named lands, especially since I have 2 plains, 2 forests, all my shock lands, as well as Jetmir's Garden. Yeah, I'll add it in. I think I'm okay with adding a Sunpetal Grove. More Selesnya lands. Let's see. I think I added some Presbytery. I think the filter land was pretty expensive if I remember correctly, so I probably don't want to add the filter land in here. I own a Restless Prairie, but again, it enters tapped. I don't know how willing I want to be to play tap lands. I could add a Fortified Village. Again, it runs into the tap land issue, but like sometimes it might not be tapped, which is very funny. Cycle land, it could work out. Yeah, this filter land's really, really expensive. Okay. Let's go with Scattered Groves, since it does have the at least the land typing. And let's go with, I have both grown from land. I could do Razorverge Thicket, which I also do know I own, but I don't know how I feel about the fast land versus just like a fetchable tap land. Hard decisions, hard decisions. Let's go with Radiant Grove. I think I want more fetchable lands, especially since I am running a few of the like quick fetches. Where are they? Sorceries. Yeah, like Farewell, Farseek, and Nature's Lore. I think I'm okay with that. So got a lot of green, still short on white. With that, I think I'm okay with that for the time being. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of other ways to make white. So I think if I switch out one of my lands, just have 3 planes, I'm pretty happy with this. And again, I'll probably go back to the drawing board and take another look at this at another time. But yeah, so there we have it, a full deck built in some time. I think my recording says I've been doing this for an hour 30 minutes. Obviously I'll cut up the video as much as I can, so that way it's not super boring and just me adding cards, but I'm pretty happy with what we got here. This is a very, very good deck list. I'll be interested to try it out and see how it feels. I definitely feel very creature heavy. Of course, a lot of those creatures, I mean, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are technically enchantments as well. So you're more looking at like 30 enchantments and 17 creatures, which would go along the lines of some of these decks. Like this one has 31 enchantments, 17 creatures. So I feel very, very good actually about my split here. Yeah, I'll have to give this deck a try, and then maybe I'll make a future video updating on how I feel about this deck and playing it. But there you go, a full deck built, bracket 2 with a good amount of win cons, a bunch of lands, and like I said, I'll tag these lands later, but these are just all lands. Here I can tag this one as land, also tag it as recursion. Cool, and I am very, very happy with what we got here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know this one was a longer video and maybe one that was a little drawn out, but hopefully you guys enjoyed kind of watching my thought process on how I build a deck. And yeah, I will tag all these as lands, and as I do this, I will sign off and say thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.